last 3/4 of a century after the Second World War has indeed been a period of the best of times. You know, it took 1,000 years up to 1950 for the world per capita GDP, or per capita income, to multiply by 15. It took 60 years for it to multiply by a factor of 4 between 1950 and 2008. And yet, there's no question that the sense of anxiety in our times is palpable. Brexit, Scottish independence, Catalan independence, far-right parties in Western Europe, Hindu fundamentalism in India, Islamic fundamentalism in the Middle East, Buddhist fundamentalism in Myanmar and in Sri Lanka, North Korea, environmental damage, climate volatility, extreme weather events, etc. So you see, we've come all this way and suddenly we're anxious. What's going on? What I want to do is to focus on 3 potential chasms. One is inequality, the second is environment and climate, and the third is the nation state. Inequality in the US fell for 35 years after the Second World War. And after that, it started rising and has risen inexorably. Some aspects of inequality within nations, was going up. Other aspects of inequality between nations, was coming down. The big worry for the world as a whole is a massive technological trend. The trend is that of displacing basic labor in favor of skilled labor and capital. It's going to lead to concentration of market income in the hands of the skilled, in the hands of capital, and away from basic labor. The spectacular income growth of the last 3/4 of a century has actually, as you all know, has been built on depleting natural assets. And as these assets run out, there's a risk that the growth that we've enjoyed is going to come to a halt unless somehow technology comes to the rescue. But it's the same technology which is leading to those inequality trends that I mentioned. Truly frightening scenarios are possible, where essentially planetary survival is threatened. The fundamental foundation of the post-Second World War period, all is not well with the nation state. There are 2 things. First is the rise of subnational movements, asking for greater control over local affairs, even to the point of demanding independence from the sovereign state. The basis on which the post-war order was formed is, so to speak, threatened from the subnational direction. There's a threat or a dilution coming from above the nation state, namely from the global side. Governments cannot do what they wish, because if they do some things, then economic activity will leave the country and go elsewhere. And of course, addressing climate change is only one example of a so-called global public good, where you need action beyond the nation state. How are we going to maintain social stability in a situation where increasingly market income is going to be concentrated, so to speak, in the hands of the computer programmers, and displacement of basic labor is taking place all the time? It has to be redistribution of some sort from this side to that side. So what is the economically efficient form of redistribution? And what is a socially acceptable form of redistribution? And our problem for the next 25 to 30 years is going to be that there is not often an intersection between those two. In 1944, a group of people met at the Bretton Woods Hotel in New Hampshire to essentially design the post-war world. The 2 key institutions that emerged were the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank. But could it be repurposed to address the problems of today? The answer to my mind, and I've written about this, is yes, potentially, but it needs institutional innovation.